Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, guys. Welcome back to another episode of Under the Pomegranate Tree. Today I am joined with a very special guest. I have with me Mufti Ismail Satia. Assalamu alaikum, Hazrat. How you doing? You okay? MashaAllah. Hazrat, many people are probably familiar with you because obviously we've seen you on YouTube. MashaAllah, you got quite a few bayans on there and you're quite prominent in your locality. But if you could kindly introduce yourself to our viewers, inshallah.
So Alhamdulillah, with myself, I'm an integrative counselor, psychotherapist. So I help a lot of people generally with marriage, mental health, addiction. And alongside with that, I do ruqya as well. So we look at both things, mentally, if somebody is ill, and spiritually as well. I believe it's one of the biggest confusions in today's society where people worry, is it jinn jadoo or is it mental health? And sometimes someone like me might say it's both things, which a person can have both. You may have somebody be jealous, nazar of you, and that might affect your mental health, where you feel down, low mood, depressed, etc.
Jazakallah. Jazakallah. I'm going to have some water for you, inshallah. I'll put this here. I'm going to boycott them. You can have that, inshallah. MashaAllah, Hazrat, it's very... You're right in what you're saying, because I also do some of the counselling over here. Marriage counselling, youth counselling. And I also had to dip into the ruqya field a little bit to try to understand what is a mental illness and what is a spiritual ailment. So it's very difficult to distinguish between the two unless you have experience on both sides, right?
Absolutely. And sadly, you get extremists on both sides. So I would say if we were to split it in generations, so like the new generation, Generation Z, they believe a lot in mental health, but sometimes only in mental health. People like me in my field, they actually mock us when you say jinn jadoo. And they'll say, hey, my daddy used to believe in it, my grandma used to believe in it. And these are things of the past. But then the older generation, you also get extremism who only believe in jinn jadoo. They cannot believe they are depressed. Why can't they believe they are depressed? Because we pray Salah and Quran. So I had a podcast recently in Blackburn where I explained this in detail. Even if you pray Salah and Quran, you can still feel low mood, you can be down, you can be upset. Like the Prophet ﷺ, in Seerah, there's a whole year called Amul Huzn, the year of sadness. Sadness. The Prophet was sad. He had wahi coming upon him. He's the most strongest, most influential of men. Why was that called the year of sadness? Because his wife, Khadija radiallahu anha, passed away, and his greatest supporter, Abu Talib, who was not Muslim. But the whole year he went through sadness. In the Quran, you see Yaqub alayhi salam, when he lost his son Yusuf alayhi salam, what happened? وَابْيَضَّتْ عَيْنَاهُ مِنَ الْحُزْنِ. His eyes whitened, i.e. went blind because of sadness and grief. So if the prophets went through sadness and grief, how can any Muslim, how practicing your Imam, say there is no sadness and depression in Islam? And sadly, we've heard it even from religious people. Religious people, even in bayans, okay, koi depression nahi, there's no depression. Just read Quran and namaz, which is incorrect. I believe that's why I say that's one extreme, and no jinn jadoo, that's one extreme. It's just mental health.
Jazakumullah khair, Hazrat. I'm just going to make a disclaimer because you brothers probably thinking, why am I holding my trusted miswak in my hand? So, I have a camera guy, he's traveling. So I'm having to make this recording on my own camera. And I had the mic over here between us, trying to keep it a little bit discreet. But because we're not picking up the sound quality, I'll just have to try and exchange over, inshallah. So, Jazakallah khair, Hazrat, and maybe inshallah we can bring you back on to discuss that side of things a bit more. We have our Sheikh Mufti Naeem Muhammad Hafizahullah, mashallah, he's talked about it in detail. And only last week I had Dr. Farooq Khan, who's a specialist doctor in mental health. So he was also mentioning that, as Muslims, we try to bring a distinction between the two. But inshallah, we'll save that topic for another time. If we can bring our guests and ourselves, inshallah, on today's topic of discussion, which is going to be marriage, inshallah. So we've got some questions here, Hazrat, I'd like to pose towards you, because obviously you've been counseling now for many years, marriages. So question number one. What core values are necessary for a healthy and successful marriage?
Okay, that's a good question, mashallah. So often we see in Quran and Hadith as well, the main ingredient, anybody looking for happy marriage, you want it to last, is the fear of Allah and taqwa. And this is a reminder actually at the time of nikah. But sadly, because a lot of people don't know Arabic, when the Imam is performing nikah, there are 3 verses he recites commonly. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة and يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا. All 3 verses are ordering and reminding to fear Allah. So we have to think, why is the Imam reminding us to fear Allah on such a blessed, blissful occasion of nikah? Because you have to fear the rights. Your husband's rights and your wife's rights. And only a person who fears Allah will fulfill that. So I think the first thing is having the fear of Allah. Look for a man who fears Allah, a woman who fears Allah. Then that further provokes another question: how would you know? How would you know if I fear Allah, what's in my heart? How do I know if you fear Allah? Is you have to look at character and akhlaq. If you know a person lies, clearly they don't fear Allah. They're earning haram, they don't fear Allah. Someone who dresses indecently, immodestly like a woman, they don't fear Allah. So I think fear of Allah is the first. And then other things like compassion, mercy is also very important. That you look at somebody who doesn't hold on to things. One of the reasons we see marriages failing is sometimes the husband and sometimes the wife, both sides, they hold on to things from years ago. Or remember in honeymoon, you left me. Remember your mother said this to me 7 years ago, and subhanallah, people have moved on. You've had kids since then. So much has happened. So forgiving, compromise, rahmah, mercy. Somebody who has a soft heart. And yes, some of these things are hard to establish before marriage. How would you know? But I always say in your meetings, prior, you have to ask the right questions. Ask, how is your relationship with your mother? How is your relationship with your father? And sometimes people might say, I don't talk to my mom for so many years. And then that means that person hasn't moved on, whether it's a brother or a sister. Another key quality is sabr and patience. So this is a very difficult one. In a 10-15 minute meeting, or nowadays people use websites and profiles, how will you know if a person has sabr and patience? Pick a scenario, make a scenario and ask, well, what would you do in this scenario? Even if it's a simple scenario. If me and you had an argument, what would you do? Well, I just get angry and walk off. Might not talk to you for a few days. Silent treatment. Sometimes, I might slam the door, I might break things. So this person is a violent person, angry person. So look for somebody who embodies sabr. And in marriage, even if you have a good marriage, you've got a good spouse, everybody knows sabr is a critical ingredient. And somebody who doesn't have sabr in everything, they're impatient. The wife's not cooked the food on time. One day she's ill, she can't cook food, husband is angry. Wife wants something from the husband, she wants to go shopping, he's delayed, he's got some issue. Wife is angry, no sabr. So these are some of the qualities I would say look out for, inshallah.
Barakallah feekum. Because I'm just thinking, like, let's just say if I was going to go for a job interview, right? I'm going to put my best foot forward, right? I'm going to wear my best clothes.
Yes.
I'm going to put my best character on. You probably not necessarily see the real me.
True.
And how you mentioned like scenario, even if you were to give me a scenario, Sheikh, I'll probably just blag my way through it, right?
Yeah. True. That's why it gets hard, you're right. Because when I've said this to other people, like you're even saying they put on the best act, they just say that, people have pre-prepared answers, preconceived ideas already. So for that leads on to the second thing is istikhārah and mashwarah. So you've had the meeting now. You've tried your best to figure out, is he or she having taqwa, rahmah, sabr, etc. Then you do istikhārah. And if your istikhārah is done correctly, why do I say correctly? Is there an incorrect istikhārah? Yes. Incorrect istikhārah is sometimes marriages don't work out. When they come to a marriage counsellor like me, they're divorced or they're separated. Say, sister, did you do istikhārah? Yeah, we were talking every day, all night till 3-4 in the morning. Then I prayed 2 rakat and I saw him in my dream. Subhanallah, what did you expect to see? Same with the brother. That you're going to cinema 3-4 times a week, holding hands, and then what did you expect to see? You're not going to see Cinderella in your dream, you saw her. So they took that as a positive sign, but that's incorrect istikhārah. Istikhārah is relying on Allah. How can you rely on Allah if you're doing haram? I have to say this because many people with the increase of divorce blame istikhārah for the fall of their marriage. So you have to do istikhārah correctly, that will determine your gut feeling. You don't always have to see a dream. People can see dreams. Colors like white and green is positive, red and black is negative, but you don't have to see a dream. This misconception in people. I did istikhara, I didn't see a dream. In my life, I don't think ever I did istikhara and saw a dream, ever. And I do istikhara for many things, because istikhara is not just for marriage, for a house, for a car, for even people sometimes. I'm going to go in business with somebody, I have a dealing with somebody, I ask Allah. Because Allah knows you, like you said, you might put in the drama, the act. You can use AI to get the answers. But Allah knows what's best for you. So it's your feeling. And during the istikhara period, which is normally 7 to 10 days, if you get a sign, what I call red flags, that you found out something about the guy, that he was with another girl, you found out about the girl that she's free mixing with guys, shishas, parties, drinking, take that as a red flag and run. Basically say no. A lot of people ignore red flags, and I don't know why. To me, red flags is from Allah. Allah is showing you, even sometimes before istikhara, but during istikhara period, you do look for signs.
I hear you, Sheikh, but let's just say now there's a guy and he's obviously he wants to get married, right? And he's found his 10-10 girl, right? He's likes everything about her. He likes the way she looks, and now he's infatuated with her, right? He's gonna look for every excuse to marry her, right? As opposed to if somebody comes with a red flag, they probably see through it. So what sort of external factors do you think, mashwarah and things like that, should a person be going through before they actually make that decision?
So somebody asked me, I'm just trying to think, the similar question a few days ago where you said the guy's in love, he's blind, nothing can stop him. So somebody asked me a question a few days ago, I think it might be their own son is like this, should he do istikhara? So do you know when I said earlier, incorrect istikhara? If you've made your mind up, and even like I say, Jibreel alayhi salam comes down and says no, and you're still gonna do it, then obviously we don't say no to istikhara, but we both know that it's pointless. That's why we say you have to be humble and genuine. And that's why, I don't want to say minority or majority, but I will say a lot of people do istikhara wrong. And a lot of them are this, what you've just said, boys and girls. The girls found tall, dark, handsome, he's a bank manager, he's got good salary, he's a solicitor, barrister. That's it. He ticks my boxes. But dear sister, dear brother, only Allah knows what's good for you. And the Quran is famous verse, Asa an takrahu shay'in wa huwa khayrun lakum. It's very possible something is bad for you. You dislike something, but it's good for you. And it's very possible that you like something and it's not good for you. So this is the Quran. Wallahu ya'lamu wa antum la ta'lamun. Allah knows, we don't know. So in these scenarios, I'm going to be honest. You can only guide the brother, advise them. But if they're blind and love is blind and they just go ahead, then to me istikhara is pointless. You're playing with Allah. You've asked Allah, Allah guide me, I'm going to marry you anyway. You're playing with Allah's deen.
Jazakumullah khair, Hazrat. So you've spoken a bit about, before we're getting married, what sort of things to look for and how to ensure that we made the right decision. But how much does faith influence the way we should behave and decisions that we make within the marriage?
Okay. So like I mentioned, qualities, faith, iman, taqwa, God-fearing is very important. And these aren't my words. The hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, that a woman, from Abu Hurairah narrated, the Prophet ﷺ said, a woman is married generally for 4 reasons. Limaliha, for her money. Walihasabiha, for her lineage. Walijamaliha, for her beauty. Walidiniha, and for her deen. And from the 4, what did the Prophet ﷺ say? Look, just for beauty, just for money and lineage. فَاظْفَرَ بِذَاتِ الدِّينِ تَرِبَتْ يَدَاكَ. Be successful by going for the one who has deen. Now, I need to elaborate on deen, because sometimes people heard this hadith, they got married, but they didn't understand it. How can you misunderstand this hadith? So they said to me, Shaykh Sahab, I married him because he wore shalwar kameez. MashaAllah, 90% of people in Pakistan wear shalwar kameez. Doesn't mean they're all praying salah and they're all eating halal and they're all muttaqi. Sometimes the brother says to me, I went to see her, wallahi, she had full covering hijab. So we judge deen from outside incorrect. Because when you marry the guy for his shalwar kameez or even just a beard and just the hijab, When you have a conflict, which every marriage have, the beard is no good, the hijab is no good. This isn't belittling beard or hijab. What did the Prophet ﷺ mean by deen here? Akhlaq and character. Her sabr, what I said earlier, her rahmah, his taqwa, his generosity, his humility, characteristics. That is deen. And this is where you're going to have to do what I call the DBS checks. You have to do DBS checks. So I mentioned istikhārah earlier, which sadly a lot of people don't do, or they don't do properly, and a lot of people don't do DBSs. Because when we deal with divorces, I always ask, so sister, did you inquire about? No, he had profileshadi.com, it looked good, everything looked good, which nowadays AI can type that up for you. So that's a deception. And same with brothers as well. That did you inquire about the sister? Can she cook? Can she clean? How is she lazy? Is she working? What's her relationship with her parents? So the DBS is very important. Sometimes it's hard with these online profiles, because how are you going to find out about some random guy in London or another country? So it's very important to look at deen. And this is the words of the Prophet ﷺ. Where a guy just looked at a gorgeous woman, slim figure, she had that model figure, he didn't look at hijab and salah and sharam and haya. They get married. And then many guys have said to me, you know, she's talking to guys all the time. She's free mixing. Oh, brother, did you ask her? No. That's your own fault. Same with sisters who look at, he had a big house, mashallah, big house in Birmingham. He was in the posh area. He was earning 50, 60,000 pounds. Sister, did you ask if he prays salah? Did you ask about his halal earnings? No, I think he goes gambling on the weekends. Ask the questions. And if you ask me, like honestly, I think some of these are very common sense questions. You don't need to be an alim, a mufti or a counselor to know this. Some of these questions are basics on Islam, but you have to look at deen.
Jazakumullah. So DBS, what's that? Deen, Bradri, Sabr, or what?
That could mean one DBS, but in my DBS is do his background checks, what we used to call the CRB. It is so important, and I'll tell you why. You know, let's say you don't do a DBS. It's like a car, isn't it? Let's do another example. I go to buy a car. You also do checks. You do checks on the car, you do checks on wherever you're buying it from. If it's a garage, you'll do, and you know, if it's online, they'll have reviews that this guy, dodgy Dave, selling dodgy cars, avoid him. So with a car though, let's say I bought a dodgy car off dodgy Dave. I can always replace it. I can always return it, and I can sell it. Now you will say to me, well, I can do that with a wife and a husband. No, that's not the intention you should have. When you're getting married, as the Christians say, till death do us part, should be your intention. Your intention is, I will stay and I'll marry forever and we will die together. You don't get married like how you bought the car. Or it's not like the August 14 days return. So that's why all these questions, maybe some listeners will be thinking, this guy's too much, this guy's too deep. You know, why is he making marriage so complicated? Marriage can be complicated, but you'd rather get it right, set out the principles and rules, and stay together forever. Where people miss these common principles out, no istikhārah, no DBS, didn't look at taqwa and sabr and rahmah, just went for the looks and for the money and lineage, which the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ says, don't just look at those things. They often regret it. Even if they don't divorce, they regret it.
Barakallahu feekum. So what should a person and their family prioritize when choosing a spouse, especially if they come from different cultural backgrounds?
So, different cultural backgrounds. First thing, I just want to elaborate on this point is, it shouldn't be an issue, because obviously we see this. Sadly, racism exists, nationalism exists. So if they're from different cultural backgrounds, some parents as well are very forceful. That Pakistani can only marry Pakistani, Indian only Bengali, and if it's mixed, it's like haram. Many of the wives of the Prophet ﷺ, Safiya radiallahu anha was Jew, Maria radiallahu anha was a Coptic Egyptian woman. Many of the Sahaba came from different backgrounds. So if it is a different background, or to me, anybody, even if it's a Pakistani marrying a Pakistani, the things you need to prioritize is number one, deen, I've already said, and deen is salah, and adopting the sunnah. Look at his dress code, look how he talks. If he's rude, insulting you in meetings, that don't talk to me like that, or he's insulting, or your mum came and said this and he's already been rude from the start, pick that up. Same with the sister, if she dresses indecently in a meeting, you don't like that, pick that up. That's akhlaq, character. And you can pick these up in a meeting. Sometimes when they go for a meeting with parents, maybe the mother may pick it up with the girl more. So the guy's mother will say, she was sat in the room and her mother served the tea, they served the samosa, the girl just sat there. She didn't even get up, she didn't even look up. So you might think she's not accustomed to housework. So deen and akhlaq is very important. Other things are important, like a job for a guy. I know I keep repeating deen, but he should be financially stable. If you ask him in the last 10 years, where have you worked? And he doesn't give a straight answer, it's a bit wishy-washy. Yeah, a few months ago I was working, then I left the job, then I'm in a takeaway. I think I might do Uber now. So he's not financially stable, and that's important. To buy a house, to have children, you need money. Thirdly, I would say look at the family as well. Also look at the family, meaning family background. So initially it was the guy's DBS, the girl's DBS. Now is the family DBS. How many divorces in the family? Why so many divorces? How do they get on with their cousins and relatives? If they pray in a masjid, ask about him. That in the meeting, the brother said, I pray 5 times salah in the masjid. Find out his masjid. Tell your brothers to go and look. Never seen him in Jummah, to be honest. Never seen the guy in the masjid. Same with the sister. If she says, I attend this durus or halaka, tafsir, you can find out from her workplace, her akhlaq. So this is also important.
But it does say, well, in nasabiha, right?
Yeah.
So how do we weigh that up then when we're getting married?
Okay, so in terms of like lineage and in terms of hierarchy, the hadith says, like, obviously a woman is generally married, and it can apply to men as well. Men are also married for lineage, but you shouldn't make it a priority. Meaning, like, you'll have them in Indian, Pakistani as well. So for example, like a Pathan does not want to marry a Punjabi Muslim, that I can only marry my Pathan because we are the higher caste. So caste can be important, like a good family, I would say. Lineage does not always prove good. There could be a royal family and she could have bad akhlaq. And it's the same with Indian Muslims. They have the Surti Baruchi. Bengali Muslim, they have Dhaka, Sylhet. But it doesn't mean a guy from Dhaka can only marry a girl from Dhaka and they're going to be successful. So that's when I said about parents and racism and nationalism. I know generally the elder generation believe in this, that he has to be from my village. Our village only, like everybody else is a bad Muslim. With the new generation, like sometimes I do nikahs as well, and often they cross culture because their characters are similar. She's a doctor, he's a doctor. He's a teacher, she's a teacher, and it works for them. But they're not same country, they're not same nationalism.
Jazakumullah khair. Just a quick question that I want to ask is, when a child approaches their parents about wanting to get married, how should the parents react, and what's the most Islamic and fair response?
So, if a child feels that I'm ready for marriage, the parents should know first their son or daughter. So often parents ask this question, which I don't have a direct answer to, is what age should my son or daughter get married? The reason I don't answer is every son and daughter is different. Their mental capability, financial stability. So if the parent feels that my daughter, she's ready for marriage, she knows the basic of house duties, mentally she's capable, she can look after a guy, then entertain the conversation. Same with the guy. More so for guys, maturity is very important. So earlier somebody asked me about, 18, 19, 20 is a legal age, so they should get married. I said, not necessarily. A lot of guys are still immature. Immature meaning most of his time is out with friends, most of his time is spilling money on things which are irrelevant. So how's he going to look after a wife? So the parents should know their own son or daughter, financial stability, mental capability. Are they ready to live their life with somebody, which, like, for girls means leave the home as well. The problem we're having with girls is every little thing ring mommy daddy, because she doesn't have that mental capability to deal with conflicts herself. She cannot deal with her mother-in-law. So then the parents should have taught her that. One of them, Maulanas earlier asked me as well, with regards to tarbiyah, that we're seeing that kids are getting married 21, 22, 23, but then they don't have the tarbiyah, they don't have the sabr, they don't know how to talk to each other, deal with in-laws. I said, that's the parents' responsibility. So each parent should know when their child is ready. And even if you have 3 children or 4 children, they won't all get married at age 21, 22. Some will get married later because they're not ready.
So just a follow-up question to that then. You mentioned the fact that, nowadays girls are not prepared, or even guys for that example, for that is they're not prepared for conflict. That, when things get a bit tough, they cry to mummy and daddy, or they call their mum and dad, or the boy wants to, throw in the towel and give up. How do you prepare somebody for that sort of conflict resolution?
So I usually, when I deal with couples, especially like when they're young, relatively young, 20, 21, 22, I'll be honest, sometimes the issues are very minute, very small. Like, it's embarrassing to deal with it. Like, if I was a parent, I would say to them, you don't bring this to marriage counseling. I'll be honest. When you deal with couples who are 10, 15 years married in their 30s, 40s, they have serious issues. So when I look at the root of the problem, this boy and girl, in their 20 years at home, definitely had conflict with their siblings, definitely had feud with their parents. How did you resolve it? But because they weren't taught how to resolve it, just slam the door and walk out, don't talk to my mum for a week, that's not the way to resolve it. So when she gets married and he gets married, they do the same with the husband. Husband doesn't talk to his wife for a month. Wife says, I'm not cooking for a week. That's not the way. So parents need to teach, and that is what tarbiyah is. Tarbiyah is not just eating, sleeping on time. It's also how to talk to your husband, how to talk to your wife, how to deal with a woman. Things like basic biology should be taught to boys as well, about menstrual cycle, about having a baby, the impacts it has on a woman, because these are the times when women are pregnant, they're hormonal, and sometimes divorces happen then. As they get older, in age of menopause, so many people get divorced 40, 45 onwards, age of menopause, because men don't know how to deal with it. So what do? Do we stay ignorant, or we start educating men that when a woman has cycled, this is what happens?
Jazakumullah khair, barakallah feek. So let's just say now, what financial discussions should couples have earlier on, and why are these conversations often avoided?
Okay, so finance is important. If you remember, you asked me earlier as well, what sort of things to consider, and I said deen, and I also said financial. If you ask me, recently, like, I've seen a lot of couples have financial issues, and mostly it was the man's fault, where he's had a loan or a debt before marriage, though, in his teens, whatever, drug abuse, alcohol, gambling. And then I'd blame Asian parents for this. Oh, uski shadi kar lo, basically get him married and he'll fix it all. That is really unfair on the wife. When he was a gambler, it was one problem. Now he's got married, it's double problem, because it's on the wife as well. And you'll be surprised how many women, good wives, start paying the debt off. The debt she never accumulated. That's his debt. Because when they come to me, I said, it's not a responsibility on you. Man is meant to be the guardian. Man is meant to be responsible. And he says debt before married. Most of them are before married. So she starts paying this off. So financially, they should ask questions. Obviously, you can't intrude too much. I wouldn't ask somebody how much they earn. That's a bit intrusive saying, and a man can get offended, woman can get offended. But you could ask profession. So you would know that a teacher in Birmingham, school teacher, earns about 30, 35k. For example, a doctor earns this much. Someone who's working for the government civil service would earn 20, 25k, for example. So you know typically how much they earn. But what you should ask is about loans and debts. Ask the brother or the sister, and then don't even stop there. Ask, are you paying off your parents' debt? Because I've also heard that sometimes, let's say he's an only son or he's the eldest son, he's paying his dad's debt off, mum's debt off. When you get married to him, that becomes your debt. And why this is important is some brothers, where I told them off that, you should be ashamed, your wife is paying your debt off. So one brother said to me, it's none of her business. He actually said that, he goes, it's none of her business. I said, okay, let me give you a scenario. Allah protect us, but if something happened to you tomorrow, you're terminally ill, you had a car accident, you got cancer, or you died, where's that debt going to come? Where's that debt going to come? It's going to come on your wife and kids. And you're telling me that you don't need to tell her anything. And some men do this. They have thousands of pounds of debt, but they don't. So financial responsibility is very important. But you got to do it politely and diplomatically, because money is obviously a big issue. Someone asked you directly, how much do you earn? That's a bit rude. And I don't think a man would tell you, a woman would tell you, but ask about debts, mortgages. Not often, but sometimes the eldest son is also paying the mortgage off for his parents' house. Maybe the father was paying it off, he got ill, so the son took it on.
Sheikh, how much do you earn?
Me? Shall I be honest? For this program, you guys promised me about 1 million, but then looking at the questions, shall I be honest? I'm gonna double that, because I think this is gonna make a lot of people happy.
Barakallahu feekum. Okay, so what then? What shall I say? How can I put this? So, what small daily action has the biggest positive impact on a marriage?
So there's many habits that can change marriage, and some things are daily. So when people come for counseling, we give solutions depending on the person as well. Sometimes they're very religious, so they think salah and deen is the answer to everything. Salah, deen helps as well, but like I mentioned earlier about mental health and things, you need to go for walks, you need to go for drives, hold your wife's hand, these things. So sometimes we say weekly things, sometimes say like once in a month, take her to a restaurant. Sadly, you'll be surprised, but some men, they don't spend at all. Like taking your wife when you're newly married, so there's no kids involved, 2 people at a restaurant once a month, and the wife says, we've been married for years, he's never taken me any restaurant. But daily habits, if you're asking daily, I would say to ask each other just generally how they are in the marriage. Like, how is your mind feeling? How does your heart feel towards me? What sort of energy do you get, if you can say that, or vibe? Just to know that, are they happy? So that's the conclusion you want to get from your wife or your husband. Are they happy? Sometimes people hold things in, and that's why our sessions, marriage sessions, I always book 1.5 hours. Minimum, it takes 1.5 hours, sometimes 2.5 hours. And that's one session. Sometimes every week, fortnightly. So that's a lot of baggage they come with. Why is this? Because men and women, they hold things in. They don't let it out. So for years, she wasn't happy with her husband's eating habits. She wasn't happy with her mother-in-law. She wasn't happy with expenses, etc. And the husband never asked. So she never said it. He never asked. So ask your spouse, how are you feeling mentally? How do you feel in the marriage? And you can ask in different ways. So like on a weekly basis, you could ask, how's work been? How have you been with my mother and father, as in the mother-in-law, father-in-law? So just to ask about general well-being, I'll be honest with you, it saves us counselors a lot of time, and mentally it's not so draining, and you're not holding like baggage for years and years and years. And I used to think it was just women, but hearing men, sometimes men, sadly, they don't open up. They don't come for counseling, usually get dragged by women. So they also hold things in about their wife or about how their in-laws treat them.
How are you today, Sheikh?
Alhamdulillah, it's been very good, mashallah. The morning program was very good. Mashallah, I'm so far enjoying the podcast. Wondering what other sparks you've got under your sleeve for me.
Not much now. Mashallah. I think you've answered some of the questions so holistically that it made some of the questions a bit redundant. But I'm going to go back to one that I skipped, because I feel as though that we could elaborate on this a bit more. So if somebody wants to get married but lacks money, status, or maybe strong family support, what is the correct and halal way to move forward?
Right, so they lack financial support?
Yeah, so they haven't got the right amount of money. They don't have high status in society, so they can go and like borrow money from somebody or something like that. And they don't have a lot of family support, but they really want to get married now. And if like for example, this one guy came up to me and he's getting involved in all sorts of haram activity strictly because he wants to get married, but he goes, financially I don't think I can support a wife.
Okay, it's a tricky one. So there are times, I mentioned this in the workshop in the morning, that obviously if a man, he's not financially capable, he can't support, then generally the ruling would be that don't get married because you're not going to be able to support her. But in a realistic situation, either somebody needs to help him settle, like where they can lend him money, a couple of £100 to get a house, rent a house, or get a job. So it's either empowering him to get a job, set him up on some skills, put him on some course. So if he has even a part-time job, money's coming in. But you see, financially, money is one of the rights of a wife, that the man has to pay the bills, the rent, anything he's paying for. So that's why if somebody doesn't have it. And you also said about status. Now with status, it's not important to have a status, but it just depends what he's doing. Like, for example, he might say, oh, I don't have a big family, I'm not known. But many of these people still get married. I think he needs to put himself out there, and it's back to empowerment. So if he makes himself a profile, gets on some groups, websites, with brothers like this, I would say, yeah, they just need a lot of support. They definitely need support to get married. And I've seen scenarios like this as well, where the urge to get married is dire as well. That they feel if they don't, they will end up in haram.
Mashallah. And what about if they can't find a spouse? What sort of halal routes are there to go and, search for a spouse? Imagine that the guy's got a part-time job and stuff. And I know people out there that are struggling to find somebody. What's the halal way around that?
Yeah, marriage, searching for a spouse has become very difficult. I get this question often. And the answers I give, I'm not actually happy with myself. Like, they're not the best routes, because websites is one. People go for websites here, and a lot of women complain that they get messed about. Why do they get messed about? The guys aren't serious, or the guys are married? Because you can lie on a profile. They put single, and then they're saying, oh, I'm married, you can be my second wife. So they lie. The other route is the profiles, WhatsApp groups, which I think is vastly used. But again, it's not the best route, because people lie, and it's men and women. A lot of men lie about their own personality, character, and 5 times salah, Quran, Sunnah, halal, earning, this, that. And once they get in touch, they realize he's not got a job, he doesn't even pray Jummah, etc. And believe it or not, there are sisters who lie as well. Many brothers complain that sisters 42, 43, 44, yeah, but on her profile she put 36.
I think that's called catfishing.
Catfishing, yeah. So then when they ask him that, how come? He said, but I look 36. Subhanallah, I look 36. So yeah, it's very common in sisters, where sisters lie as well. Often they just accuse the brothers, but there's even sisters who sadly sometimes 2 times divorced, 3 times divorced. Now, if you ask me, then you should be clear. Same with brothers. But where a sister has a profile, she's just wrote divorced, which you would assume once. And where it's happened, I said, well, when you contacted the brother, then at least telling him that, I've had 2 marriages and I've got 2 children from each, so he's clear. It does make a difference. Because once, and we don't want to generalize and stigmatize, but once somebody's 2 times divorced, 3 times divorced, you do ask more questions. Let's be honest. That, okay, you got divorced once, you made 1 mistake. What happened the second time? What happened the third time? And if a sister says, first time was mother-in-law, second time was mother-in-law, third time was mother-in-law, I don't think many brothers are going to believe that. All the mother-in-laws were the problem. So that's why you have to be honest. So these 2 routes are commonly used. The third route, which is not very common but was the best route, was the auntie matchmakers and the uncle matchmakers. But sadly, some of them are in their graves now. And those that still do it, like up north in Blackburn, very few. And I spoke to some of them, because a lot of people ring me for like finding someone, and I'll say that, you used to do rishtas before. Mufti Sahab, too many divorces now, too many problems, and they feel they get blamed, so they just stepped away. So the anti-matchmakers, why was that the best route? I'll tell you why. It was serious. For example, I'm an uncle matchmaker and I know you and I know your parents. You're not going to mess me about. You're not going to lie, and I know the girl as well. So it's serious. When it's a website and a profile, often the boy and girl contact each other. I've even heard some of them don't even reply. They talk, they meet, everything. Okay, let me know after istikhārah. Guy's waiting for 6 months and she's not replied. Girl's waiting for a year, the guy's not replied. And this is very common because it's not serious. it becomes like dating. It becomes a bit of a joke, and there's no adult, like responsible adult in between. So the best route was the old school route. And anyone who's been married through that route will agree. So Allah make it easy for everybody, but like the two routes I mentioned, websites and profile, is common. But I would say if somebody takes these, then ask a lot of questions and make sure they're honest. Obviously, like in the last year, we've seen, before people would write good profiles, now AI is doing it for them. AI, write me a good profile. I want to be a good Muslim profile. I'm a 30-year-old man, etc. And subhanAllah, any sister that sees it thinks this guy's amazing. But he's not amazing.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah. Looking back, what is a common misconception do you think people have about marriages which you think need to be addressed?
Okay. So, when young people get married, you speak to them and you're happy for them. And yeah, they do have a lot of myths, misconceptions. So one is marriage will fix everything. A lot of people have problems. The world we're living in, it's not the world we were living in 20, 25 years ago. And I don't think it's going to get better. So problems meaning mental health problems, medical problems, character. And sometimes parents make this mistake that, son's got addiction, he's got a habit. Shadi kar lo, he'll fix it. Girl's got a problem, attitude. Shadi kar lo, he'll fix it. This is a big misconception. So when you get that guy married, he's drug addict, alcohol addict, he's gambling. Or let's just say he's a bad kid. Guy sleeps all day, doesn't talk to anybody. Shadi kar lo, he'll fix it. So he gets married. He's not going to wake up 6 o'clock in the morning and make breakfast for his wife. His wife has now become the A&E. She's become the A&E to fix him what his parents couldn't do in 25 years. How is that fair? Same with the girls. It's same, you have to be fair. There are many girls with attitude. They don't cook, they don't clean, they don't do nothing in the house. And back to parents, I blame the parents because the parents said at 18, 19, abhi to choti hai. She's in Alima class, she's in college, university, usko bare hone do. She's 25 now. She doesn't lift a spoon in the house. She doesn't cut fruit. She doesn't cut vegetables. Never mind cook. She doesn't do nothing. She is also going to be a burden on her husband. So this is one misconception, that marriage will fix everything. Number two is like marriage is a bed of roses. You get married, and obviously we have to thank Bollywood films for this because they portray that scene. Okay, you get married, you're like Romeo, Juliet, Layla, Majnun, everything's happy, hunky-dory. No. I always say marriage is work in progress. Everybody, if you're somebody that's married and listening, you are also work in progress. If you are young and you're looking, you are work in progress. If you are divorced, you are also work in progress, meaning there is always something you can fix. Your character, your tongue, work on your sabr, work on your salah. Maybe you pray 3 salah, 4 salah, but you're lazy in fajr. That's your work in progress. Maybe you don't adopt the sunnah and eat in the correct way and sleep in the correct way and you don't even know the adhkar, etc. Work on that. Sisters, the way you dress, you might wear hijab, but the rest of your clothing isn't according to Islam. Work in progress. So there was always work in progress. So this, I think, these romance novels and magazines which portray this picture that marriage is a bed of roses, you get married and that's your life done. It's a start of a life. It's a beginning. And you got to work on each other. That's why the main ingredient I said earlier was sabr. If your wife has a sharp tongue, you're going to have to do sabr and train her. If your husband has a lot of anger, you're going to train him. And like I said, yeah, it's not fair on the husband and wife to do it. People complain, well, that's the parents' job. And I will say, yeah, parents do partially tarbiyah. But that's 20, 25 years. The rest of his life and her life, there is husband and wife. So that's why I say look at growth. One key quality is growth, which is big in a marriage. Because when you have growth, the guy is humble. Okay, just tell me when I'm angry. Tell me what I did to upset you. When the girl has growth, she will also say, what do you mean my tongue is sharp? What did I say to upset your mum? So look, you called her this. Next time, don't do this. There's growth, there's humility. They will learn, shape and mold each other.
Barakallahu feekum, jazakumullah khair, Hazrat. I think I'm done with the questions, mashallah. We're in good time. I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes those people who are married, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless their marriages, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala fill it with barakah. Because marriage isn't all that bad, Sheikh, isn't it? It's actually a good thing, right? It's a good partnership. It's actually it's a way to remove loneliness. You're building a partner. And any sort of like final positive notes that you want to leave us on, inshallah.
Yeah, so you're right. Marriage is a big step, it's a big fulfillment, it's half your deen. So these guidelines we've given, it's obviously from experience that some of the mistakes people make, misunderstandings. But I also make a lot of dua for everybody who's listening, that you find the right partner, you take precautions, the right step, and inshallah you will find your partner who will make you happy. And as the Quran says, لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make husband and wife so that you can get peace and tranquility. And that's why we say look at character more than anything. Money will not give you peace and tranquility, just looks will not give you, just lineage will not give you. So always look at character, inshallah, somebody who makes you happy, somebody you want to spend the rest of your life with. Because I always say you don't get to choose your siblings. When you were born, you didn't say I want him as my brother, she looks alright, my sister, my mum and dad. You don't get to choose your sibling and parents. You get to choose your wife and your future children.
MashaAllah. Well, you've heard it from the professionals, guys. Inshallah, do your due diligence, inshallah. Make sure you find the right person. Don't just get infatuated with looks and the car. If he's driving a Bentley, but he has an attitude that stinks, right? Or she's probably, that 1010 that you were looking for, but she doesn't know how to make a cup of tea. These are some of the things that you need to watch out for, inshallah. I pray Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes things easy for you, inshallah. And if you do have any further questions, or if you need some support, inshallah, with your marriage, if you're up north, inshallah, we'll put Sheikh's details down at the bottom, inshallah, you can get in contact. If you're central, inshallah, you can come give us a shout here at Darul Ilm, Birmingham. We have our counseling sessions every Tuesdays and Thursdays between 11 and 2. Don't hesitate to get in contact. I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Sheikh, before we go though, I want to keep this recording because I will see if you're going to put this in or not. This is just an off-the-cuff question between me and you, inshallah. Somebody's married once, right? He wants to get married a second time.
Yeah.
Right? What advice would you give to his wife number one? Right?
Yeah. So,
to allow him to go and get married a second time.
So I think earlier in the workshop, one of the sisters asked this, and I didn't answer fully because I don't know her scenario. So she might have 6 kids. Can't just say to her, get divorced. So, I said this in the workshop. I had one of the slides and it said common causes for divorce, and the last reason was second wife. Right? There's somebody who said to me, astaghfirullah, it's totally halal. Who are you to say? I never said it's haram. I'm saying it's a common reason why you don't tell the first, because it's not a cultural thing. It's not accepted. Indian, Pakistani, Bengali women, they just class it as a girlfriend, class it as an affair. And sometimes it is like a girlfriend or affair. Sometimes they didn't have nikah. He's got this side fling, and then when he gets caught, she's my second wife. And we've got to be fair. That's not fair on women at all. So I always advise brothers, someone comes to me for second wife, I said, look, Islamically, you don't need to tell her. From experience, many things you have to say from experience, it's just best to tell her. Especially if you've been married for 10, 12, 15 years or more, and you got a couple of kids, it doesn't end good. Most end up in divorce because the first wife will not accept it. Where they do accept it as well, there's always turbulence. So my advice, this I always say in private, but now I'll say in public as well, is best to tell her, see if she accepts it, then make a decision. Reason being, let's say he did it. He did the second wife, he didn't tell the first. She'll find out, eventually she'll find out. Yeah, women are detective, better than MI5, MI6. So they'll find out. Then it's a case of, do I keep him or do I not? So that's when I say to the husband, are you ready to lose your first wife and kids? Let's be honest, a man separate from his kids, it's a big thing. I'll tell you another scenario. Imagine the second wife didn't work out. First one's divorced him, second one's gone, he's lost everything. So some brothers may disagree with me on this, that Islamically we don't need to tell her. But alhamdulillah, we talk from experience what's happened.
Yeah. Thank you, Hazrat. But the question was, what advice would you give to the wife,
The first wife.
to accept the second?
In terms of, yeah, it's a tough one, but a lot of women, it's what they think about second wife. So because I said, a lot of them think of as a girlfriend or is having an affair, is you have to think that it's Islamically permissible. And another one where I do encourage is some men have more desire. This is one of the things women don't accept and understand. Some prophets had 100 wives. The Prophet ﷺ had 9 wives at one time. 9. Why? Some ulama say it's because they had more desire, more shahwat inside them. The prophets had more strength. So why has Allah allowed second, third, fourth? It's because there are men on different levels in this world as well. Some men have strength for 4 wives. Some have strength just for 1, and some have it for 2. If we completely ban the concept of second wife, then I'll tell you what will happen. Zina will increase, affairs will increase, because you've also banned that law in the Quran where Allah allowed it. And whenever I've said this in the past, we always get backlash from the women, is we don't get treated fairly. So then I will say to the first and second wife, then you ensure it. Put the rules down. I'm happy to be a second wife, but just treat me fairly. So it's about accepting the concept, reduce the jealousy. Even the wives of the Prophet ﷺ had minimal jealousy between them. There was comments made and things, yeah? It's a woman thing. But you can't totally ban it. And I'm not ashamed to say this because we've seen this. Where you completely ban second wife, then those men who have a lot of shahwat and desire, they will end up in zina, or they will end up doing something wrong. And then every woman will say, astaghfirullah, that's so bad. But when he was doing it the halal way, you didn't allow it.
You heard it, eh? Inshallah. Okay, guys, we'll see you in the next episode. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah khair, Hazrat.